Hi, YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
All right.
Hello, people of the internet.
We are continuing with our youth lessons,
On
studying
studying
the
the
Bible.
Bible.
the never ending on studying the Bible. So, I had a question, and I just thought about this. This is probably, this is probably our Christmas service too. Christmas youth service too. I was looking at that. So, instead of going through my 15 pages of definitions that I had looked up that are very good, is that someone over there, Naomi, or is that Mr. P?
Someone over there.
Okay. So, thanks. So, I was just thinking about this. All right. So, the scriptures, the Bible, right? Is it of man or is it of God? Naomi?
It is of God.
Of God. Okay.
Use
Did-
words that make sense first, then I will answer.
That's scriptural.
He asked the same question last week. And I
What do
got
you
it
mean by
wrong.
of?
I'm going to define more questions. All right, listen to them. The source of the scriptures, is it man or is it God?
God.
Can you raise your hand? Anybody? Naomi?
God.
God. Remember, we have to raise our hand. All right. Yes, the source, the fountain, where it originates from. So, non-believers, well, I'll just say this. The Bible is not like any other book. It's not like any other, it's actually a collection of books, but it's not like any other book. You can read it like a regular book, like front to back, and totally miss the whole point of it. Okay? God is the source of the scriptures. The scriptures are the written word. God's written word. All right? Filled with words. All right? Before the scriptures, there was the oral testimony. The testimony spoken from family to family, from generation to generation. Like Adam and Eve, they would speak everything they knew and were knowing of God to their children. Then their children would speak everything that they had learned and were knowing of God to their children, generation to generation, and so on and so forth. Okay? So then you've got like Adam, and then you've got a long list of characters in the scriptures, and then you've got Noah, and then you've got the flood, and then you start it up all over again, and then you've got Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then the 12 tribes. And so during this whole entire time, everyone is declaring the testimony of Christ, whether they realize it or not. All right? In Genesis, when God created this whole entire creation, and then what did he tell man concerning the whole entire creation?
It is good.
Okay, you didn't raise your hand. Sign.
It is good.
Okay. Anything else?
You got it wrong.
No? You got it wrong, Noah.
No,
All
I
right.
sabotaged. He got it wrong.
Okay. So one of the main things that he says is that basically this man called Adam has dominion, authority over the whole entire creation. Everything. Not only that, but get this, every single animal, every single creature had to come to Adam, and Adam defined what it was. All right. So you've got two dogs. They come to Adam, and Adam says, well, this is in English. It was probably different in his language. Adam says, dog. Before that, this creature could not call itself anything. Well, it probably could. You could probably say, well, I'm a purple.
Or it could say wolf.
Or you could say wolf. We're a wolves. You know? But Adam defined what it was. Okay? So here's one man. This is his entire creation. And he declares everything concerning that creation. Okay? So there's the testimony of Christ. Jesus, the risen Messiah, the risen Christ, the risen living Son of God. There's this creation, who he is. And in his creation, he defines everything. Okay? That's great news, especially for the believer. One of the things that that they would do if there was like a leper during Jesus' time, and before then, they would have to go and say, unclean, unclean, leprosy. That way they would warn people that they're coming. Okay? When a person is born again by the Spirit of God, that means Christ is now present in the soul on the inside, regardless of what they look like outside, regardless of what they think. Christ says, clean. Because it's not the outside that matters, but the inside. If the inside is clean, the whole thing is clean. The only clean there is God himself. The only good there is God himself. All right? Remember when Jesus was talking with the Pharisees, and he said, you Pharisees, you hypocrites, you wash the outside of the cup, the outside of the dish, but the inside is full and dirty and, I can't remember if I'm mixing up two different times he says something, but the inside is not clean. He said, first wash the inside and then the whole thing will be clean. All right? Man only looks on the outward appearance. All right? Those are one of the natural senses, looking with the natural eyes. And man, based upon what he sees, he makes a natural judgment. Natural sight computes to a natural judgment. Like, I'm going to make a natural judgment right here. And it's just what I don't mean like judgment like a judge like guilty or innocent. It's like, no, observation, okay? There's 4 lights on the recorder. That means all the mics are on and it's recording. There's a true judgment based on a natural sight, natural senses, okay? Concerning God and the things of God, we cannot use our natural senses. Back to the scriptures. In reading the scriptures, their source, their fountain is not man, but God. To truly understand what the scriptures are declaring, what the Bible is declaring, God himself has to make that known. Okay? So before Moses, there was the oral testimony. Nothing written. It was just from generation to generation, every family, every father was declaring to his children the God that he has been knowing, the God that he knows, the God that he walks with, unto his children. Until, Lord willing, the children would discover that same God. That's why when it was several times this happened. I think it was with Jacob maybe, where the Lord appeared to Jacob and he said something like, "I'm the God of your father Abraham, of Isaac." I think it was Jacob. I could be wrong. I think it was Jacob. Another time, Moses and the burning bush. I think it was Moses and the burning bush. But the Lord declares himself, I am the God of your father Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. Oh, okay. Now I know who I'm talking to. Or better yet, now I know who's talking to me. It wasn't a foreign thing. It was like, oh, okay, you're him. Everybody, everything that I've heard about this person, this God, from my forefathers, from my grandfather, and so forth. Okay, now, I know who I'm talking to now. Or actually, I know who's talking to me now. Okay. It wasn't a foreign thing, okay? So there's this oral testimony that was passed on, speaking to one another, from family to family, generation, until finally Moses shows up. And the Lord says, okay, now Moses, start writing down basically what I tell you. So Moses is not the source of the first 5 books, the Pentateuch, the Torah, the law, but God is. And then from that moment onward, anytime anything was written, man was not the source. It's kind of like, I did this example before too. It's kind of like if I said, okay, Naomi, how fast can you write? Shorthand, start writing everything I say. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Let me tell you something. Are you with me? Are you with me? Come on, you got to go quicker than that.
I write in cursive. Give me a shot.
You could write shorthand.
As in just R instead of R.
Okay, maybe that V8 energy is too fast for Naomi this morning. Okay.
I'm writing everything that you said. Not
Perfect. Thank you. Everything that I've said.
I can't write everything that
Okay.
you said.
No. Great example. Hold on to that. Great example. All right. So,
I bet God was slower and waited for Moses.
probably. Now you guys.
Or you gave him super speed.
Now you guys, who wrote that?
God.
With my example.
Jimmy.
Somebody raise your hand. Zion. Thank you, sir.
Naomi.
Naomi wrote that. Was that her mind or my mind? Noah.
Both. Mostly yours.
Wrong. Totally my mind.
Also, when I'm
What if-
writing
what if
really
she
fast, my
spelled it wrong?
handwriting is horrid.
Yeah, that's fine.
What if she messed up and didn't write quite what you said?
Well,
so it's partially her.
Okay. Nope. See, here's the thing. The difference with this natural example is that we are two people, natural beings, and there is room for error.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with God, when the scriptures began to be written down, what are the scriptures? The scriptures are basically the testimony of God's Son.
Content can be found on the screen.
I don't know
Cut it
what
off.
that is.
Cut it off.
Like, I didn't do anything.
If you look at it, this is perfect. God the Father looking at God the Son, and he's speaking. And whomever he chooses is writing down what God the Father is speaking as he's looking at his Son. All right? There's zero error in the testimony, zero error in the scriptures concerning God's intent and God's purpose. All right? Because God is presenting a testimony of his Son, a perfect testimony found in the scriptures, a perfect picture found in the scriptures, do you think if man, or let's go back to our example, if you think Naomi would have not written exactly my thought, do you think God would have let that fly? No.
No.
No. Because it's not a matter of being inspired, which they were by the Holy Spirit, and wrote down what they saw and what they heard. No. With God, he is presenting a perfect testimony of his Son. What's written must be perfect according to what God himself, God the Father, knows. right? So the scriptures are perfect in that sense. Now, you can have misspellings or whatever, and just, I don't want to say that, but little nuances here. But the purpose and intent of the scriptures, which is the testimony of Jesus Christ, remains the same. So now we have the written scriptures. All right. So the Bible, the scriptures, sorry about that, Naomi, are declaring God's Son. All right? Back to the very first, one of the first examples I gave with the creation. You have Adam, and you have an entire creation, and this whole entire creation receives its identity from Adam, regardless of what the creation thinks. And I don't know if you guys have experienced any of this, but there may be believers out there that have, because I have in the past. But it's like, for one, God did not give us the Bible so we could be like Jesus. No, that has man as its center. That's man-centered. No, God gave the scriptures because they are a testimony of his Son. It declares his Son. It does not declare man. If anything, it declares that man needs his Son because it declares his Son. All right? So when the believer, the one who's truly born again, let's say, misses the mark, remember? Someone asked me about this, one of our previous lessons. Missed the bullseye? Does this ring a bell? It's not going to ring a bell to you. Does this ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, okay. So, I think the question was something about like sin or something. Well, it's basically, sin is missing the mark, missing the bullseye. And so you read something in the scriptures and it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And let's say you don't do that. Boom, you missed the bullseye. You missed the mark. Here's the bullseye over here. Here's the bullseye over here. And you shot over there. You totally missed it. Missing the mark. You have sinned. So, what would be the response to that as a believer? Lord, here we go. Lord, forgive me for that, where I missed the mark. And by your Spirit, cause me in my heart to not miss the mark. And I say it that way because here's the thing. Christ is the mark. Remember? Here's a huge statement. Listen to this and let it sink and let it soak and let it be established in your hearts. God and God alone is Christ-centered. Period. God and God alone is Christ-centered. I'm not, you're not, and you're not. And if we think we are, then we are incorrect.
We're blockheads.
Blockheads. Nope, not blockheads.
Made out of L's.
We're losers.
The
Exactly.
natural mind, no. Man always misses the mark. Okay? Now, the moment of new birth, Christ appears in the soul, right? And the only one who has ultimate and total authority to declare now the condition, the state of the vessel, is God's Son. And he declares, if the soul is born again, he declares clean. Regardless of how we look, get this, regardless of what we think, he declares clean. If Christ is present, if the Son is present, clean. Yeah, but what about me missing the mark? Well, if you're born again, here we go. We're going to pull up the diagrams. What's that?
A Polar or blinking in a blender.
A square.
Square, thank you. A square represents not born again, okay? Then, what does this represent? Sign?
The nuclear button that you press to bomb the other country.
Wrong. Wrong. You get taken off of YouTube for stuff like that. All right, this diagram represents a born again believer. Remember? Whoops. Here, Christ isn't present. It's Adam at his worst. Or at his best. But it's still not Christ. Okay?
Shouldn't there be squares inside the square?
Yes. For a different lesson. Here's a born again believer. Christ is present. But look at this. Look at this. Like picture this whole thing as the soul. Okay? This whole thing as the soul. What's this dashed square all about?
He has holes in his soul.
Wrong. Picture this whole thing. This vessel, this thing, picture this as the soul. Okay, I know it's a rectangle, but whatever. It's supposed to be round, but they don't make round tablets. Okay, but anyway, this dashed square around the perfect circle, which represents, the perfect circle represents Christ, life. This dashed square represents the natural mind. But Christ is present. Right?
Yes.
So God declares clean. Here we go. Not clean. Christ isn't present. Clean. The born again believer with his heart submitted to the natural mind. The natural mind, the source of the natural mind is the first man Adam, okay, as dirt. Not what Adam represents, but the first man Adam. See, I've got a mind, you've got a mind, you've got a mind, you've got a mind. I have thoughts, you have thoughts, you have thoughts, you have thoughts, you have thoughts. We may have different thoughts. We may have similar thoughts. Your thoughts may be greater and more extensive than my thoughts. Your thoughts may be less than all of our thoughts combined. Who knows, right? You can develop your thoughts based upon your learning, but it's natural learning, okay? But regardless of how much we know or don't know, its source is the natural mind concerning God, and the things of God, including the scriptures, requires the mind of Christ. So back with my example with, with Naomi, what's that process called? Naomi was writing down what I was saying.
Dictation.
Dictation? I'm dictating and she's writing down. Okay, so back.
She's dictating.
Yeah.
She's dictating.
Yeah.
Jimmy said you're just
Oh.
talking and she's
Okay.
dictating.
Okay.
Right?
Dictating. What?
We'll figure it out. Someone, if you're watching this and you know the answer, leave it in the comments. I do look at the comments. All right. So, back with that example. All right. If either of you guys are reading what Naomi has written down and you don't understand that, who are you going to ask for the true meaning? Are you going to ask Naomi? Are you going to try to figure it out amongst yourselves?
The YouTube video.
Back to the example. Are you going to try to figure it out amongst yourselves? Or are you
Probably.
going to ask me?
Are you gonna ask me?
That was the first thing. If you don't know what if you don't understand what you're reading, are you going to go to Naomi? Because she was jotting it down. Or are you going to discuss it and debate it amongst yourselves to try to find out? Fine.
We'll go to you.
Yes. Why?
Because you understand its meaning. She just wrote it down.
Correct. I know what I'm saying based upon what I know. Whether she understands it or not, she's just jotting it down. And in fact, actually stay with it. In fact, there were, and I think Peter says this in one of his epistles, the men who were inspired by God, they were writing down what God was saying, and some of them didn't even know what they were writing. They were just listening. They didn't have to know what they were writing. They were just listening to God speak. Hey, I'm just jotting this down. If he says yes, I have to put down yes. If he says a sentence that really doesn't make sense, I still have to write it down. I think it was. Let me look it up real quick. All right, let's look. Nope. Nope. Where is it? Psalms. Okay. This is Psalm 22. This is a Psalm of David. All right. This is David. David, time frame of David. All right. Was. Hold. I didn't even understand that. No, what did he? I mean, Zion, what did he say?
I didn't even get a full word.
Okay.
I didn't even get a full word
Okay.
before
He
we
said
stopped.
negate.
Okay. Time frame of David. Everything, when I ask for a time frame, you've got to look at the time frame being this: before Jesus, before Christ, or after Christ. Anno Domini, year of our Lord. Okay. So where was David? Time frame. You raised your hand.
I was gonna say they changed BC and AD to not be Christian anymore.
Yeah. Who changed that? The heathen. The heathen, thinking they know better when they know not. I would say this, and this is true. If the heathen want to change the Christian calendar, the calendar that God gave, why don't you just make up your own calendar, right? They changed things to take Christ out of it. There's none who seeks God, no, not one. All have come short, all have sinned, have come short of the glory of God. Jesus said this: no man can come to me except the Father draw him. That's normal. Man does not want God in the picture. Man does not want God's Son in the picture. Zero. He doesn't. It requires a miracle of God for a heart to turn to his Son. It requires a miracle of God for a heart to respond to the voice of the Son of the living God. Concerning God and the things of God, it requires a miracle of God. God has to take the initiative. God has to do something, because it's like me trying to communicate to that fidget widget. It has absolutely no ability, no power in itself, no life in itself.
Dead as a doornail.
Dead as a doornail. Dead as a fidget widget. But anyway, so before Christ, David, okay? Back to Psalm 22. Look at this. Look at what David says, verse 16 of Psalm 22. For dogs have surrounded me, a band of evil doers has encompassed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. Now, did they really pierce David's hands and his feet? No. And yet he's declaring this. Question: was David the source of what he wrote? Yes or no?
No.
Ty, Simon.
No.
No. Who was the source? Simon?
Jesus.
What is David here truly declaring? What is this psalm truly declaring? What is God the Father truly declaring here? Anybody? Noah.
Jesus.
That's right. That's right. I don't know how many years, but it was several years before Jesus was actually born, and specifically, according to this verse, before he was actually crucified. So what if David is jotting this down? What? They pierced my hands and my feet? That makes no sense. Does it have to, David? Because, David, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about you guys. And it's not about you. It's about Jesus. Now, that's a very clear example. But the entirety of the Scriptures is just the same. It's not declaring us. It's declaring God's Son. All right, bring it, all that background information, bring it up to speed. Remember, before Christ, Christ is born Anno Domini. AD means Anno Domini. It's Latin for the year of our Lord. Okay? So, now, before Christ, Anno Domini, all the Jews, because the Scriptures were given to the Jews, God used the Jews as a testimony of His Son. The testimony, well, it got messed up here and there, but still the same. The Jews were in expectation of, before Jesus was born, they were in expectation of what? Noah.
The Messiah.
The Messiah, correct. What was the current situation or condition of the Jews during that time of expectation? Noah?
Born from a descendant of David.
That's concerning the Messiah, but what about the Jews in general? The nation of Israel? Where were,
You
okay.
would free them?
Okay, hold on. You're getting there. First of all, question. Where was the nation of Israel at during that time? As a whole?
Captivity.
They were in captivity, but where?
Rome-ish.
Earth.
Naomi? Okay. All right. They're captives in their own land. In Israel. Even in Jerusalem. Right? So, they're captives by the Roman government, the Caesars. They're captives. And one of the prophecies concerning the Messiah is that he would make the captives free. All right? Moses, going back with the testimony, Moses. During his time, he was born where? Noah.
Egypt.
Correct. All Israel at that time was where? Physically? Noah?
Egypt.
Correct. All right. Now, were they free? Naomi?
No.
No. They were in what God calls the house of bondage. They were in captivity to Pharaoh. All right. So, God picks one person, Moses, to be a testimony of his son. Born in the same situation, under captivity, God calls him out. He comes face to face with the Lord. Now Moses is sent back to deliver Israel, right? To deliver God's people. Did he or did he not? Did he or did he not, by the ability of God, deliver Israel? Naomi.
He did.
He did.
Depends on what you mean by deliver.
Deliver? The way I'm using it, he brought all of Israel out of the house of bondage through the Red Sea and
Sure, temporarily.
unto God himself. Not a temporary thing. This was a permanent thing because it's a testimony. All right?
Of the permanent thing.
Yes. There were no Israelites who were left in Egypt. They all came out. They all came out. That was the true deliverance, or the testimony of the true deliverance. That was the testimony of their true salvation. They all came out of Egypt. All right? There's the death, because it was by the death of the Lamb. Then the burial, they all went through the Red Sea. They were baptized into Moses, right? The burial. So, here we go. I'm going to give a sequence of events, and someone give me the last event that I'm asking for. Death, burial, Naomi?
Resurrection.
Resurrection. And that's exactly what happened. There was the death of the Lamb. There was the burial at the Red Sea. And then there was resurrection, where God said, you saw what I did to the Egyptians, and how that I bore you upon eagle's wings, resurrection above, unto myself. Perfect picture of Jesus, of Christ. Okay? Bring it back up to speed. Now you have Jesus born. Born, and this nation is in bondage, in the house of bondage, under Caesar. Right? They pierced my hands and my feet. He dies. The Lamb was offered to God. Jesus was literally crucified, dead. Because the Romans, the torture of the cross, the physical crucifixion, you couldn't survive it. And not only that, but there was a, what do we call it? There was the Sabbath coming, so the bodies had to come down, so they pierced his side to make, and then, okay, he's dead now. He's dead, all right? Then he was physically buried, and he physically rose again, all right? But Jesus, back to Jesus, all, before his crucifixion, all Israel was in bondage. And they were hoping for, they were waiting for, they were in expectation of what Noah said, the Messiah, to release them from this oppression, from this bondage. Okay? So, their expectation, their hope could have been, he is the one who is going to get rid of the oppressors. So we can get this, so we can do whatever we want now. So we can serve the Lord in peace in our own land. Because they were in their own land, the land promised to them, land promised actually to the seed. They were in their own land, but still in bondage. Okay? So some were expecting a king that would overthrow the Romans. Sounds like a good deal, right? If that's what you want. Right? I don't want to say the three wise men. The wise men who brought 3 gifts at the birth of Jesus, what did they say? What were they looking for? They were following what? Naomi.
A star.
They were following a star. They were following a light. They were following the testimony that was going to lead them to what, Naomi?
Jesus.
Jesus, who is Noah?
The Messiah.
The Messiah. All right. What did they tell Herod when Herod brought them in and said, to investigate him, okay, what are you guys doing here? What are you looking for? Tell me. What did they basically tell him? We are looking for Noah?
The King of Israel.
The King of the Jews. The King. Israel was in expectation of a king that would overthrow the current king, Herod, I guess, who was placed there by the Romans. So who would overthrow and defeat the Romans. All right? That's one expectation. Now, yes, Jesus is a king, but is that all he is? Naomi?
No.
No. Noah, you weren't here, but there was, we had a lesson, and there was the blind man, and there was a big old crowd, and the crowd, the blind man was asking the crowd what? The blind man what was he asking the crowd basically? It's like, what's going on? What's happening? Because he couldn't see anything, right? Right. All right. So what does the crowd tell the blind man? Anybody remember?
Get lost.
Wrong. Scripturally, according to the Bible. The crowd tells the blind man, oh, it's Jesus of Nazareth. Oh, okay. So, was Jesus of Nazareth actually passing by, yes or no? You know me?
Yes.
Yes. But is Jesus of Nazareth and that's it? Or is there more to him than that?
That's it.
Where did you find Jesus at? Was he in the tree?
That's it for Noah. Sign?
There's more to it.
There's more to him. Well, does anyone respond? Does anyone remember the response of the blind man? Anybody? Yeah?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. The blind man said, Jesus, son of David. So the crowd knew him one way, which is true knowing. I mean, Jesus of Nazareth, that's who he was. The blind man who could not see said, Jesus, son of David. Son of David is a title for the Messiah, also which is a title for the Son of God. All that to say this, in reading the scriptures, we can learn so much. Like, remember how I told you I had 15 pages of definitions that we didn't get to, but Lord willing, we will. We can learn so much, even like my definitions, with a natural mind. Investigating, consulting natural sources, accurate sources, and yet it is still the natural mind. But when all that's learned, it still has to be presented to God himself, who is the source. And here's where it comes down to it. Lord, with all I've learned, I don't know. I think I know. I think I know what you're declaring. I think I know what you're saying. I think I know what you've said. I think I know what you want. But it's still my mind. I've read all this. I've learned all this. It's still my mind. And with my mind, the mind of the first man, Adam, I will always miss the mark. You, on the other hand, Father, do not. So I trust you to declare your mind to my heart. And what will God declare? Noah.
Jesus.
That is correct. Jesus. Man has no ability whatsoever, no power whatsoever concerning God or the things of, or that which pertains to God. One of the passages that we had covered was the man, and there was a pool, and he was sick. Noah?
Why is God a circle and not a triangle?
That's a different class, different lesson. I'll explain next time. Hold on.
Because he's not sharp.
Terrible. Okay, I'm losing you guys. Okay, back, last example. There was the guy who was sick. There was the pool of Bethesda, sick for 38 years, and all he was waiting for is for the water to stir so he could get into the water and be healed. So when Jesus comes, he asks him, do you want to be made well? And then you've got this guy, well, look, I tried this, and then when I do this, this happens. This whole little wah story. But that's not what Jesus asked. Jesus asked, do you want to be made well, yes or no? It was a yes or no question. And finally, Jesus knew he wanted to be made well, and he knew that this man was caught up in his situation. He finally says this, here's God Almighty with all supreme authority, all power, omnipotent one. He says, take up your bed and walk. Boom. Before that, with the man's little whiny story, he said very, very important, he said, I have no man. For my true need, there is no man. I can't do it, and no man can do it. Back with our example. For the non-believer, there is no man who can bring salvation a change of condition of the soul from being dead, whoop,
To upside down.
to upside down, to life. God sent His Son because there's no
Also
man,
upside down. But it's up.
there's no man but Christ alone.
How can you tell that it's upside down?
Concerning,
Just was.
okay, guys, concerning those who are born again, concerning us knowing or learning or understanding God or that which pertains to God, there is no man who can. It is not found within the mind of man. It requires the mind of Christ. So, based on the past few lessons concerning the different ones who were in different situations, all that is to say that concerning God and what pertains to God, the Scriptures, what God has provided, it requires a miracle of God to make known what He has declared. Once again, with our example of Naomi writing down what I was saying, there you guys have it. You can figure it out. Does God want us to figure out His Scriptures? Well, no. He wants us to read them, and He wants us to present our heart and say, Lord, I've read. I think I've understood. I think I know. But it is I who think, I with a natural mind. And ultimately, you, O Lord, are the only one who truly knows what you and you alone have declared. So I present my heart, I present all these studies, I present all this reading, I present all this study to you, and I'll wait for you to declare to my heart what you've said. Pretty cool. And the response that God gives, once again, is,
Amen.
you said it earlier, Noah.
Jesus?
Jesus. Listen, I know you didn't raise your hand, but I needed
Are
something.
dotted lines really that hard to draw?
Yeah, I was noticing that.
Give Jimmy a break.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The dotted
The dotted
line.
line is messed up.
What? No, on the
Oh.
square.
No, that's just how it happens.
That,
That's how I did. I didn't do that. That's how that's all I
The
can do with
computer
this.
drew
That's
itself.
all I can do with this thing. Anyway, so that's the lesson for today. God declared His Son until finally God sent His only Son, and to some it was the rejoicing because they were looking for something more than just a deliverer. And the majority did not rejoice, but declared, crucify Him. But God and God alone knows the great, immeasurable gift that He gave and continues to give. So that's it for this lesson. Any questions and or comments?
why is God a circle?
Besides that one, a semester
Because
in
he
college.
never ends.
He's eternal. It's a picture of eternity.
Well, then wouldn't it be
No
on-
beginning,
couldn't you
no
do
end.
Yeah, why couldn't you do a figure?
Okay,
But on its side.
it's the diagram. Fine, I'll show you a different diagram next
Yeah,
time.
but it should
Anyway.
be 3 circles because triangle. It should
Okay.
be like the infinity sign, but with 3 of them.
All right, so this is our our Christmas youth lesson, and it's all about what?
Jesus.
Naomi?
Jesus.
Yes, correct. All right. Lord bless you all. See you in our next lesson. If you have any questions and or comments, you guys who are viewing online, you can leave a comment or your question. That's it. Lord bless.
Bye, YouTube.
Queen wave.